All right. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tackle and Tacos, a fishing podcast coming to you from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. My name is Jordan. Alongside my co-host from Davenport, Iowa, is Nate Conklin. Nate, say hello.
What's up? I'm not gonna say hello like that, mate.
Hello. Uh, And then our guest tonight, the one and only, the legendary Mr. Bobby D, Bob Downey from Minnesota. So we're kind of covering the Midwest real well. We can leave Illinois out because nobody really likes Illinois anyway, besides the Cubs. I don't know what they even have going for themselves.
Right.
But yeah, we're covering the Midwest vibes tonight, so that'll be dope. We're really excited to have Bob Downey back on 7th place right now. Seventh out of like the 100 best bass anglers on planet Earth. This dude is just kind of low key number 7. Like, I don't know. I'm excited. One thing I've been wanting to have a podcast forever. Like, there's certain things when you're podcasting that you can do. You can talk to specific guests and just get like their life story. You can talk about specific baits or rod reel setups or boat companies or whatever. And you can talk about things that matter in fishing. And I would say maybe the biggest one, like if you're going to be a tournament angler at least, or even just for fun, really. But maybe the biggest word of all is consistency. How do you go out and fish well more often? And this dude is always there. Am I wrong about that, Nate?
No, you're spot on for sure. He is like you said, he's just low key, just goes out there
Go.
and puts 5 in the boat, which is always objective number 1. And he's put himself in a position where he's sitting pretty in AOY for himself. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he won, and I think it was 19, which is absolutely insane to say. Open in like Grand Lake, and he's from Minnesota. And so, like, one of the things I want to key on too is the idea of like, how do you get good on waters that aren't your waters? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you figure? Because
Yeah.
bass are bass, and they're going to relate to certain things similarly, but at the same time, completely bass aren't bass. Like, these bass are different than those bass. They act differently. They spawn differently. They relate to structure and different structure differently. How do you get consistent with so many factors kind of at play? And so that's what we're going to talk to Bob about tonight. And then I also asked him, and I don't know what he's going to say, but I asked him, what's one technique that you're a fan of that you really enjoy doing? It doesn't have to be like your absolute dead nuts center. This is my favorite, but what's a method of fishing you love? And let's just tear it apart. Like, let's just lay into it, specifics, high level specificity, rod, reel, how to fish it, whatever. And so I don't know what he's going to say, but I'm excited. And then also we're going to play a new game. We don't have a theme song for it. I'm very sorry. Do we have? Nope. There we go. We don't have a theme song for it yet. I will make one. I want to make like a cheesy, like old school 70s game show or something, but a new game called the hypothetical game where we give really specific circumstances, water temperature, time of year, what you're doing, and then what do I do now? And then we bounce these hypothetical specific scenarios, like just 2 per guest, and see what they say. Because you're a liar if you say that you've been on the water before and been catching them, been doing well, or had a game plan, and then you get out there and things shift and you haven't said to yourself, crap, now what? You know that feeling of like, where do I go from here? So the idea for the hypothetical game is, yeah, it'll be fun, but also like hopefully it's something we can all kind of log in our memory banks and learn. And yeah, so before we get into real quick, we'll bring Bob in. But before we get to that, before we get to our socials and website and sponsors and all that good stuff, Nate, can you explain to us your really fun derby? Like take like 3 minutes. Try to go quick, but give us like your fun derby and some of the stuff that you went through for your last Angler's Choice, because it's kind of bananas.
Yeah. So if by fun I get you mean absolute debacle, then it was an absolute blast, no doubt. So Fish Angler's Choice Sunday, so it was yesterday, literally.
Yep.
Was boat 2, took off, headed to our spot, which was awesome. So we were the first ones there. We kind of started on this point going into this this kind of narrow cut between some islands, and not too long after we were there, a boat comes in behind us. They sit down, idle past us because they're going to go fish a ways up from where we're at. No big deal. Awesome. It happens all the time.
And they did it like they were like respectful about it. Yeah.
Very respectful. Sat down, a ways behind us. Yeah, sat down a ways behind us. Idled right past us, waved, guys we know in the derb. So, no big deal. Probably 5 to 7 minutes after that, another boat comes in to the same spot, and they go to sit down, and it's literally 10 feet from the back of my boat. Is when they decide to come off of plane, and it's a skeeter, and it porpoises all the way past my boat, just out in front of my boat, and then they like hard idle all the way through this deep cut that we're trying to fish, and just blow it all the way to smithereens. They hard idle all the way right next to the boat that came in second, power pulled down next to them, and sat there all day long.
That's crazy. And I mean, I'm not trying to make a joke because you're black and Ish is black, but did you want to Ish these dudes? Like, did you want to keep
Yeah,
suckers? I mean, that's
yeah,
bananas, dude. Like
for
that
sure, for sure. I
improv
heard a story.
on his deck.
Yeah, so I heard a story about this same guy doing this thing last year to somebody, and I told my wife that exact thing. I was like, if this ever happens again, I'm gonna see him on the front deck, like
Yeah,
without a doubt. Like it was crazy.
that's wild.
So we fish our way up to him. We work around him. I told him, hey, they're fishing both sides, crossing people's lines. They're doing this whole deal in this small cut, and I'm like, hey, I want to get by you. I'm going left or I'm going right. You pick a side. So I'll be courteous and I let you decide where I'm going. And they're like, okay, yeah, come this way. So I go around them, and we sit down in front of them a little ways, and we end up catching a limit pretty quick. Which was quite nice. But then we sat there for a good handful of hours, no fish. I think we started calling around 7 o'clock, and finally decided to leave that spot around 10:30 ish, after not catching anything. And by that time, we realized the cranking battery was dead. We could not start up and take off. So there was another boat that was near us, happened to have some jumper cables to let us borrow. And so we put the jumper cables on and go to take off, and it took off, but then it just won't plane out. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I've never had that happen before. So come to find out, the battery didn't have enough voltage for the motor to stay up on plane. So we had to like leave the jumper cables connected to one trolling motor battery and the cranking battery to stay on plane to run to our next spots. We run around the lake a little bit, try to charge the battery with the alternator, and go sit down at our next spot, and don't catch a single fish there. Do the same thing to run back to our first spot, get back there, don't catch a fish. I think we caught like 3 pike kind of in between this, but never caught another bass. It was
That sucks.
yeah, it was absolutely brutal. So finally it's time to go. It was about 1:40, and we hooked cables up and go to take off. Apparently by that time the cranking battery had been drained even more, so even with the cables still hooked up, it actually shut us down kind of in the middle of this lake that's super shallow. So shut us down, and we had to idle all the way back to the deep cut to get out. And by the time we idled back, the motor overheated because we were running out of time. And sat down in a bunch of mud and grass and filled the motor up, and then it overheated, so we had to let it cool off. And by this time it was I think it was like 1:58, and we finally decided, we'll just toss our fish back. We had to be back by 2, and it was probably at minimum 9 minutes to run back if you're running 70. Like, you have to be absolutely pushing it. You got to know the shortcut to get back across some wing dams and stuff if you want to get there quick. Like, it's a bit of a run. Probably even longer than 9 minutes, honestly, running hard. But it was,
That sucks.
so finally it was brutal. Had to toss our fish back, finally get the motor charged enough to where we can take off and stay running. And of course we're running. I'm not pushing it hard. I kind of go around the outside. We're running about 50 miles an hour up river, and a storm rolls in. And I mean a storm rolls in.
Why
Like,
would
we could see it come. Exactly. We could see it coming, but it came with vengeance. I mean, it downpoured just insanely bad. I slowed it down to about 30, trimmed down, we're going, and it got to the point where I still couldn't see doing 30 in this absolute pouring rain, and I had to shut it down. We had to idle like a mile upriver to get back into the ramp, before we could see. It was insane. And it was a brutal tournament.
was that 1,000,000 degrees out too?
It was pretty warm. It wasn't terrible.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah, that was
that's a good sucky story, but it's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
So
Everybody's been through it, man, on the water.
yeah, no,
You handled it well with them fellers. I'd have been knocking some teeth out. I mean, that's
yeah.
rough, dude. Like that's
Yeah,
real.
we did some complaining to the tournament director afterwards and kind of let them know, what they did and how they should go about things in the future and hopefully the conversations that were had will will raise some awareness on what not to do
God,
in the future. And like I said, these were older guys, man. They were probably, late 50s, early 60s. Like they absolutely know better.
they know better. Yeah, you can't do that.
Absolutely know better.
You
Yeah.
did- Even if you didn't, like just like the common sense, like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like nobody should have to tell you, hey, don't come in on pad 10 feet behind another boat. You know, like that's wild. Don't fish right next
Yeah.
to your dude and go crossing his lines up and like, yeah, that's bananas. But let's switch gears. Let's bring the dude in. Let's bring in the Minnesota legend. We've had this guy on before, and it was an awesome conversation. And part of why I wanted to talk to Bob about whatever technique or lure he chooses to talk about was because last time we had him on, we sort of inadvertently got like in the weeds on jig head minnow stuff. And he's just so articulate, so smart, so good at communicating. Make sure you're following him on social medias and stuff. He's been doing some awesome YouTube videos. If you're on YouTube right now, our YouTube, we have the little ticker scrolling at the bottom so you can find him. And with no further ado, let's bring in the current 7th place. And I'm rooting for him so hard to move up the ladder. We just got to get Trey McKinney and his bad haircut out of the way, and I really think I'll move on up. Let's bring in Mr. Bob Downey. Bob, what's up, man? Hey.
Hey guys, appreciate you having me on.
Heck yeah, dude. How are you,
There
man?
he is.
I'm good. I'm good. Just enjoying the summer with family back home here. So nice to be back on with you guys.
Yeah, appreciate you so
Heck
much.
yeah.
So before we get into some of the meat about what we wanted to talk about, this is a question I was just thinking about. You're a Bass Cat guy now? Were you
Mhm.
a Cat guy before you were on Bass Cat?
Yeah. Yeah. So I bought a Bass Cat in 2012,
Okay.
Pantera 2, and then I actually qualified for the elites out of that boat in 2019. So I ran that boat for 7 years, and then I've had one now every year on the elite series. So yeah, I've been running a Bass Cat since 2012.
Yeah, right. The reason I
That's
asked,
awesome.
yeah, first off, me and Nate
Yeah.
both love Bass Cats. Neither one of us have one, but they're just freaking dope boats. But I was talking to
Yeah.
a friend of mine during a derby last weekend, and he was saying like there's not a more uh loyal group of boat owners than Bass Cat guys. Like Bass Cat guys are Bass Cat guys. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, yeah, they are. And, I bought it, it was my first kind of big purchase out of college after getting a job. And I like the fit and finish of it. And then they were just gracious enough to work with me right away. And that's kind of why I continued my relationship with them. But they're good guys over there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you
Heck
see
yeah.
I don't know if either one of you guys saw this, that boat that Travis Hunter got from Bass Cat? Did you see that thing?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, so
I
Travis,
haven't.
the Jaguars got this crazy because he's a Jaguar and their colors are like that teal, black, and then gold. So he
I have seen that. Yeah.
crazy.
Actually, now that you say that,
What was it? A Puma or what was it?
I think it was well, I guess a Jaguar would make sense, but
I think it was a 300R on the back, and yeah, I guess a Jaguar would make the most sense, like brand for brand. But yeah, that thing was filthy. Gosh.
yeah, cool colors. I did see that now that you mentioned the Jaguar colors.
Yeah, super rad, dude. So, anywho, so beyond that, beyond the fact that you're killing it this year, how's life been? Anything new? How have you been as a human being?
Things have been good. I can't remember the last time we were on, but we've got a 2-year-old son now. I don't know if we had our son Jed at the time, but he's been awesome and
Yeah,
definitely changes pace of life for sure, as you guys probably know.
yeah,
Heck
absolutely.
yeah.
But yeah, all good. And yeah, my wife's a teacher, so she's off in the summer times, and so I'm back home for summer break, and it's just been really nice to kind of settle in and hang with family and fish a bit around the house and just kind of mellow out for a little bit before the New York swing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Are you? And I assume you're looking forward to the New York swing. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always feel comfortable there. These guys are so good these days, though, that I don't really feel like I have an advantage with smallmouth anymore like I used to when I started my elite career. But Yeah, looking forward to it. I'll fish a bunch of smallies around the house and northern largemouth around grass the next couple months. So kind of just getting primed and ready for both of those.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Like that.
What? Okay, let's go off on a tangent because you sort of touched on it, not really touched on it. What's your thoughts on some of the younger dudes on the Elite Series and just bass fishing in general? You know, Banks Shaw, some of these guys who are 14 old and are absolute hammers. Like, I'll set it up like this, and then you give me your opinion, Bob, and you can jump in too, Nate. I know you're a host, but give me your opinion. I'm not anti it because I feel like 99% of these dudes, from what I can see and from the guys we've talked to, like Easton and some other people, they are absolutely ate up by this whole bass fishing thing. Like, they're not doing it for clout. They're not doing it for clicks. They're doing it because they freaking love fishing. And so maybe they a little bit different. And with electronics, like the learning curve is so much shorter and whatever else. But like, I don't know. I don't really have like a big issue with it. And it seems kind of like a polarizing topic, but I don't really understand why, I guess. What do you think, Bob?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it personally. I kind of fall in the middle of like that. I'm 38, so I'm not really a veteran of the sport. I'm not really a young guy anymore. So I'm kind of right in the middle. And I was a rookie not that long ago. This is my 7th year on tour, and I kind of know what it feels like to come in as a rookie. And so I just try and be welcoming and positive with those guys whenever I interact with them. I have nothing against FFS. I actually have really enjoyed our schedule this year, even though it is 50-50. I think the ones that we don't have it just mentally allows me to kind of settle in to my own realm and not really worry about, am I going to get blasted by guys catching roamers, which I have nothing against doing that. I do it a lot here and try and get better at it, but those young guys are really good at it and they're better than me at it. So they put their time in, they work hard. I do think they're doing it for the love of the game. And for the most part, guys are going about it in the right way, I would say. Um, we've had to change some rules in the last couple of years to kind of tighten things up from an information standpoint, but for the most part, I think guys are going about it the right way and they're working hard at it. And to me, those are like the two things that matter most. Like, if you're doing it the right way and you're not trying to cut corners, I don't really care how you catch them. Like, as long as you do it respectfully and you're just a good dude, like that's what matters most to me.
Dude, that was perfect. That was perfectly said. And I literally
Absolutely.
agree with anything more. Everything you said, I completely agree. What do you think, Nate? I haven't really asked you about this. Although the one thing I do know, and I really like it, this will be my second Ish Monroe reference of the show, is when Ishama called them chicken tenders. That was the funniest in the world to me. He named one of them by name, by like Trey McKinney, and the other chicken tenders or something. I was dying. It just sounded so old, crotchety, but like from Ish, it's just funny. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, no, that's super funny. But yeah, I'm in that area of like the guys have absolutely dedicated themselves to the craft. I think that's that's where where it really where it really shows. No families, no real going out doing crazy stuff. That's just fishing here, fishing there, catching them here, catching them there, and not much for any in between. And that having that much time on the water, dedicating yourself to the craft that way is I think it just is really paying dividends. It's showing big time.
Yeah. How can you be mad at somebody for being completely consumed by the same thing you're consumed by? They just have a more opportunity to do it. Like, I guess you could be jealous, but some people act like corners. They haven't cut corners. They're working their butts off.
Yeah, and I was, when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was doing the same thing, just not at the Elite Series level. Like, I kind of got a late start on the Elite Series, started when I was, I think, 30 years old, a little over 30. But, I was towing my boat to work more often than not, going fishing after work a lot, putting in the time, fishing a tournament pretty much every weekend in my young 20s. And so I was doing a lot of that at that age, just on a different level. These guys are just, far and away beyond where I was in my early 20s. And now I'm just at a different stage in life, and I'm okay with that. Like, I enjoy spending time with my wife and son and friends and family, and I still try and spend a good bit of time on the water, but I also have other priorities in life too that it's about finding that balance.
That's exactly, yeah, that's exactly,
Yeah,
that's
for
right.
sure.
I heard, I don't know if it's true or not. I think it is, but I heard a story that Dylan Nutt was back on the water, like fun fishing on Tuesday after he won the classic on a Sunday. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like, that's
Yeah.
so great. Don't take time and put your feet up and whatever, like keep fishing. And yeah, I think it's great. But one other thing before we get into like fishing consistency, how do you develop it? And then like one of the ways to fish and the hypothetical game and whatever else. What do you think about the spiky ball, dude? You like throwing the urchin? You hate the urchin? Do you feel like I do, like it catches fish, but you feel like a dork when you're throwing it? What's your overall, Bob?
Um, so I've thrown it a little bit. It was a big player for me on Lake Murray this year, actually. So I caught, I think my 3 or 4 biggest fish that I weighed in that tournament came on that bait. So I'm not dialed in with it like some guys are. I think honestly, besides a few select guys, like we're all still trying to learn how to use that thing and the right way to rig it. Um, I used it last year and caught some smallmouth on it, the smaller versions. And so I'm a little bummed that it's kind of out now. I was hoping to kind of be able to do that for another year without many guys messing with it. But it's a deal. Like you better get some if you don't have any. It's the Senko of our current modern day bass fishing, and
What a
I don't
statement.
know if it's maybe they'll definitely get conditioned to it at some point. But I don't think it's pigeonholed as just the FFS bait like we all kind of thought it was originally. And so there's a lot more uses for it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I read an article with the feller from Japan who kind of developed that style from Koike and some other stuff. And I think the phrase he said was perpetual motion. So like the thing that's so unique about it is, like when dudes are snapping it and all that, but on the fall, it's just all those little thingies are moving. And so
Mhm.
fish gonna get conditioned, sure, but it's not the same, but it is the same. Like when I first started fishing Cincos, wacky rigged or Texas or straight rigged or whatever on the fall.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, the abstract. On
Yeah.
the fall, it would kind of do that weird little shimmy. Like, and you
Mhm.
didn't have to impart any action. It did its own action. And I think that's part of what
Right.
Foike or the abstract or the Amoeba or the Timu Foikes or whatever else,
Yeah.
full cast or smaller. I think that's part of what makes them so cool is the fish haven't seen something moving so much, but so subtle, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. And it's got the characteristics of like a jerk bait with that stop motion to it. And then it's got characteristics of a wacky rig with like the slow fall and slight movement. And then honestly, it's got characteristics of a jig a little bit too. Like if you ever hang a jig on wood or something and you go to get it, that skirt's just like flared. It's just sitting there flared. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like we're fishing a floating jig almost in a way, or slow fall jig. And then it's kind of got like in a abstract way, it's kind of like a small Alabama rig if you really think about like um especially like the koiki fish, the one that's just a little bit different.
Yeah. Really
Um
straight on it. Yeah.
yeah, like an Alabama rig like is just arms with kind of fish imitators on the end of it or swim baits, and like the koiki fish is kind of the same way, just in a
Yeah.
small pack.
Yeah.
So it's a crazy deal. It's I always am like surmising of like what's the next weird thing that's going to come along, like the chatterbait, the Senko, the Ned rig. What's next? And then for this thing to come along is like so unexpected. It's hard to imagine what's next.
The great.
After something like this, it's like game on for anything. Like who knows what's coming next?
It is weird. Yeah. But
That's a good point. Yeah.
to your point though too, Bob, but that was another thing, the koiki fish, and then that feller who kind of started some of that designs, that was something he said, was that I don't know if he was talking about the fish or just the urchin baits in general, but he was saying the ball is kind of like food, and then each little arm is as if a minnow was touching it and trying to eat out like a ball of bait, so
Right.
there's a million and seven different ways to look at it. Some people, it's
Yeah.
a crab, or it's like a this, or Jason Christie wins on the daggum Koike, and he admittedly was like, I didn't throw it till like a week ago. I still don't know what I'm doing. And he came up with a rigging with the frog hooks, and
now you can't buy frog hooks anywhere. It's just wild.
Dude, you know what I did last weekend on this derby I had on the Chippewa Flowage? And by the way, I couldn't buy a bite on the urchin, and I did try multiple ways. But anyway, I couldn't find a frog hook either, and so I had an old Spro flapping frog with the weight on like kind of like the shaft of like the 2-hook deal, and I just cut it. It worked so well, dude. Maybe I shouldn't even tell people that. It worked so.
It's funny. You're the second person I've heard this week say that.
Really? I'm trying to think, do all Spro frogs have that joint on the head, or is that just the flapping frog?
I think they all have that joint. I don't know if they're all weighted the way the flapping frog is, though, because the other Spros have that circular weight in the
body, yeah.
But the flapping frog has the lead around the actual hook.
Yeah, it's like a small little triangle, and then it goes up to the eye, and then there's like that little, it's not a swivel, it's like a swivel that doesn't spin, like a little joint. That little joint, too, man, that thing makes it fall so juicy. Like maybe we should beep this whole part out so we don't give the joint out, but it looked
and it's already weighted too.
And it's already weighted, and the weight, because the amount of shaft, and I was using a 20 millimeter, the amount of shaft below the weight, that weight acted like it's like bobber stop, like it just stayed perfect place. It was like
crazy.
Don't have any frog hooks. Nobody has any frog hooks. I asked a place up there, like, hey, you guys got any frog hooks? And the dude basically laughed at me, like, all right, thanks. I got it. This old black and yellow flapping frog that I've had for 10 years, not literally, but a long time. It worked awesome. But anyway, maybe let's not tell everybody that, but it did work well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So let's get to the nitty gritty, Bob. Consistency. I feel like from what I see from you, like 71 elite tournaments, 55 times in the money. You won in 19 on a lake that's nothing like lakes where you live in Minnesota. You're currently 7th in AOI, which is crazy. You're well within striking distance, especially with the kind of northern New York Smalley swing coming up. Consistency, in my mind, there's a lot of things you could look at and say what separates a good angler from a great angler. But I think by far, and I think the same thing could be said for like hunting. You'll see one guy who kills a big buck and it's like, oh, that's great. And then you don't hear from him. The guys who kill good bucks every year, it's like, how are you doing that? Fishing consistency, like that's such a word. However you want to take it, Bob, what does consistency mean to you? How have you gone about developing it? Teach us.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that I've mulled over a lot over the years. Like I've literally come up with lists like what makes a good tournament angler, and I've listed everything possible in there just to try and like improve myself. So I wouldn't say it's something that I find every year, but I've found it maybe the last 3-4 years of my career. And I think there's a lot that goes into it. Some things can hurt you, some can help you. And like from that standpoint, I'm talking more about like taking risks. And I'm definitely not a huge risk taker when it comes to generally making long runs, or maybe I found a couple big fish in an area and I'm going to go all in on that. I try and find kind of an area where I can get a base and then build from there historically. Now, this year, with the decent start that I had through the first 4 or 5 tournaments, I actually have taken some more risks later in the year. Like at the Pasco tank, I took a bigger risk making an hour and a half run each day, and it ended up working out. So that risk deal is one thing that I do take into consideration a lot. And you also got to kind of understand, like, if you've had a bad practice or a marginal practice, how do you just put something together to avoid a bomb? What do you do to avoid a bomb? Maybe you've had a bad practice. Let's not just go willy-nilly and run 60 miles to a different area you haven't been to all week and hope that it's going to happen, because a lot of times it doesn't. So the bad part of that is I do think it has hurt me from contending for wins more. So you look at a guy like Jason Christie, I think he takes a lot of risks. So you see him win tournaments, but you see him bomb out in tournaments as well. And he typically, he's having a really good year this year. I think he's close to the top 10 in AOY. But he's a guy that takes a lot of risks, and you see that, he wins some, but he also bombs out a lot too. So I've started to I didn't really realize that until the last year or two, that I'm just not a huge risk taker from that standpoint. So that might be number one, or part of the equation. I wouldn't say it's maybe number one, but um, another part of it, I think, as I've gotten further into my career, is just your grittiness and kind of your battle level on the water. And what I mean by that is, how do you figure out a way to scrape up a decent limit under any circumstance? You might have found the best area. Like I look at Lake Hawaii a couple of years ago as an example. Like, I found what I thought was one of the best schools on the lake. I show up there on day one, and Seth and Carl are both sitting on it. It's like a one-man spot. You can't really have three boats there. I had made a 40-mile run to get there, and there's two boats sitting there.
Yeah.
Run to my next best spot. Austin Felix is sitting on it. He ends up winning the tournament off that area.
Yep.
Okay. So now we gotta figure, what do we do? We gotta figure out something. And it was just a matter of what's your battle level like? Are you gonna let those knock you down and totally spin you out and mess you up mentally for the rest of the day? Or are you just going to try and figure something else out before it's check-in time? And it doesn't always happen, but you have to have the mindset that it will happen at some point, and you just got to keep battling throughout the day. And I think that comes with time. I played hockey growing up,
Okay.
and I followed the NHL pretty closely, and you see guys like Sidney Crosby, for example. It took him some time to win a cup. He almost had to go through the gauntlet and improve his battle level to the point where he finally was able to push through those tough moments, whether it was regular season or in the playoffs, to actually get to the point where he could contend and win a cup. And you see that a lot with veterans in the NHL. It doesn't usually come easy right out of the gate. It seems like they've got to build their readiness and battle level to be able to actually break through. And I think I didn't have that the first couple years of my career. I feel like the first year, definitely not. Better the second year, and I feel like I've gotten better at that each year. So I think that battle level is a big deal. And then another thing is just keeping a calm head and finding some sort of peace in your decisions throughout the day.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I'm someone that generally commits to an area of the lake, and I'll kind of break it down for everything that it's worth. And there can be some anxiety that comes with that, because you may have picked the wrong area. You just don't really always know until tournament day. Like on the Arkansas River this year, I was running down to the lower pool. It was about a 25-minute run to the lock. You got to lock through. Then I had another 25-minute run. And so it took me about an hour and a half to get to my fishing area. I had about 4 hours to fish before I had to lock back, because we had set lock times. And I was pretty torn about it after practice. And then the night before the tournament, I kind of just settled in, said, okay, we're going there. We're going to fish. You got to have some peace with that. If it works or not, that's what we're going to go do. And I think what that does is allows you to just get in a better headspace where you're just fishing better. You're not so wigged out about everything that could go wrong. You're just kind of there, and you're fishing, you're locked in, and whatever happens is going to happen. And it sounds easy, because when it doesn't work well, like it's not cool. And like there's definitely times where it hasn't worked, but for whatever reason this year, whether it's Arkansas River or run into one creek on the Pasco tank and spend them all 3 days in one creek, um, and just haven't, I don't know, I've just had like this sense of peace over me this year of like, I'm going to go do what I'm going to do. And if it works, great. And if not, no big deal. And for whatever reason, it's just been working this year. I can't really explain it.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well,
There
I
you
have
go.
questions. I have follow-up questions, Bob. Number one,
Yeah.
thank you for thinking that through so well. That was super well put. I agree with everything you said. I want to ask you for a little bit of specificity if I can. So like with the Lake Oahe event that
Mhm.
the Pajama Prince won,
Yeah.
when you go to your first spot, it's, for lack of a better phrase, this is dubious grammar, but it's took. You go to your second spot, it's took. Are you the type to just kind of sit there for a second and breathe? Do you put it in forward and kind of idle and look through the map? How did you decide what to do in that exact specific moment?
Yeah. I had, basically, I spun around and went to a point nearby in that same area that looked the same and fished new water right out of the gate because I had made the run. I had kind of committed to that area. Um, and I was like, well, I'm here. I'm going to at least give this other zone a little bit of a try before I start working my way back and bouncing around on other stuff.
Mhm.
And it didn't really work. I think I might have caught a short fish or two, and so then I just continued to bounce my way back. And I finally, at like 1 o'clock, I remember I ran a point and I think I caught like 15, 16 pounds off of one point before check in. They just fired on it. And it was a point I had caught some fish on in practice, but I didn't really have high expectations.
Mhm.
So, but then on day two, it was the same deal. Like I tried to get on some of that stuff. I couldn't get on it. I finally went up to Austin because I think I had 4 fish. I eased up to Austin at like noon because I had seen him there all day. I said, "Hey, can I slide in here and catch my limit?" And he let me sit next to him and catch one fish. And then I left. And then I didn't go back the rest of the tournament. And he ended up winning in that area.
Yeah.
Um, so he was cool with it, uh, for me to catch one fish and slide in there. But it was a mental battle. I ended up making the cut. I made it to day three, so that was awesome. And then day three, I just kind of fished new water and had a decent day. But it, I think the biggest thing is it's so easy to say, but you cannot give up right out of the gate like that if stuff's not going your way. Like you got to find a way to battle. Like your battle level's got to be really high, and whether that's fighting big waves. Like on the Pasco tank, it took me an hour and a half to run 50 miles the first day, and I was going 15, 20 miles an hour at times just to get to where I was going. Um, or if a guy's on your spot, or if your first 5 spots haven't worked out, like you got to find a way to battle through that. And like I said, it doesn't always work. But if you give up, it's never going to work. Right.
Dang.
So.
That's profound. That's really profound. I like that. Nate, what you got, homeboy? I saw you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so if you've gotten to those moments where you've like hit that spin out moment, you're spun out, trying to figure out what to do, where to go. Has there ever been any like one thing that's kind of like brought you back to center, calmed you down, and like opened your eyes to like making that next right decision, or just a decision at all?
Yeah, a few times this year I've let myself I had a few day threes this year where things didn't go well and I could kind of feel myself like tense and
Mhm.
like I just wasn't fishing well.
Yeah.
I was losing fish, and I've really learned from those moments this year and applied it on the Pasco tank this last tournament actually. Like I had a marginal first day. I was in 56th place, not very great. And on day two, I told myself, don't fish tense like you have in a couple days earlier this year. Like don't do that.
Mhm.
So So like I've learned from those moments, and I just went into day two. Just fish calm, just don't freak out, like just lock in and fish. End up having a great day and moved up to like 33rd place and made the cut. Um, so I guess to kind of answer your question, Nate, is like, what do you do in those moments? Like for me, it's drawing on past experiences of like, okay, here's what has happened when I haven't kept a calm head. Let's learn from that and let's try to not do that again. Let's, even if things aren't going well, like really try and keep a calm head and keep that peace. So that when you do get the bite, you don't mess it up.
Mm,
Yeah,
that's
for
one.
sure.
Yeah, because sometimes when you're spun out, something happens, and then that sort of like spills into something else crappy happening, and then that spills. It kind they sort of like, the one
Generally,
next one, and then it's like dominoes of just shit happening, and then you're like,
yeah,
get out of this.
it's crazy. Like, and it's so easy to say, but I still fight those demons. Like on day two at Santee Cooper this year, I had a great day one. I was sitting in third. And then on day two, like it just didn't happen in the morning right away like it did on the first day. And I could just feel like I was just feeling the pressure.
Mm.
I'm on camera and like you're trying to do well. And I think I had zero fish in the box at 9:30, 10 o'clock. And um, you can just feel like the walls closing in on you. So even though I try to avoid that, like it can be hard to do, but you kind of got to just like keep the course, really try and like hone in on the moment. Like I know it's cliche, Mike Nelly always says fish the moment, and you've really, instead of like spinning, you've got to almost put your mind in gear to like, okay, what adjustments do I need to make? Like let's, instead of like worrying about why it's not working, let's worry about like what we need to do to figure it out. And some guys are really good at that. Like I think like that's what separates the top guys is making those daily adjustments.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree, man. Can I ask you a weird question, sort of about what you're
Mhm.
about? So, I should know this about you, but I don't. Are you a bow hunter at all, Bob?
Yeah, it's like my favorite thing to do in the fall.
God, I thought I read that, saw that something, but I thought if I brought
Mhm.
it, I was wrong. I would just look even dumber than just asking you. So, but yeah, I agree. So for a couple years there, Bob, I don't know what kind of site do you shoot?
I couldn't even tell you what it is. I think it's like a Copper John it's an old, I don't have like the newest, latest, greatest
Yeah,
bow.
fine. The only reason I ask is I used to shoot a multi-pin, like a sideways multi-pin.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, that's what I have. Yeah.
Okay. And then I switched to a single pin, like an adjustable sight. So, you hit them with
Mhm.
the range, adjust it to, if it's 37, you put the pin at 37. It's kind of awesome because it's very specific. And
Mhm.
for that sight, I never had, what they call target panic, where you bring your bow up and you sink it in on and like your brain just tells you to shoot, as opposed to like locking and like really like exhale, like you don't take your time and your brain just kind of goes, ugh, you know what I mean? Like you get up on your target and you just let it rip. And it's obviously not a consistent, not a good way to shoot. There's
Mhm.
all weird like things you can do to try and overcome it. For me, I would just like talk mean to myself. Like when if I was target, I would let one rip and I go, dude, what are you doing? Like what? Stop it. Like, you know how to shoot a bow. That's not it. Stop that. Like knock it off, dude. And then I pull up the next time and I would just force myself to hold that pin like right where I wanted it, like for 10 seconds. And my brain is like, let it go, let it go. And I'm like, shut up, brain. Like just stop. Like I
Mhm.
think in fishing, as the clock ticks by, it's like a very
Mhm.
similar thing that happens where your brain is like, "Ugh, ugh, ugh," like let it go, shoot, move there, drive your boat.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? And
100%.
sort of have to talk like, stop it. I know how to shoot a bow. I know how to catch a bass. Just shut up. Like you know
Yep.
what I mean? Does that make any sense to you?
Oh, 100%. And I think that's, yeah, you see guys every day on the Elite Series or every day in tournaments across country that get in trouble because of that. And myself included. It's done me wrong at times too. And so battling those demons is a big deal. I think in anything in life, especially, in sports, you get to that high level of whatever sport you're playing, bass fishing. that's the difference maker, honestly. Like we all can cast pretty well. Our mechanics are very similar for the most part. Decision making, strategy, and controlling those demons are, man, that's really what separates guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're spot on. Do you feel like now, like you're talking about being battle tested, battle ready, kind of, grizzled, like there's like that old saying, like you got to pay your dues. And then I heard one time
Yeah,
a hip hop song, I don't remember who it was, but they said something like you got to pay your dues and you can't do it on credit. Like you can't force it. Like you can't prepay your dues. Now that you've
yeah.
gone through that process, you've paid your dues. Do you walk into a tournament a little more confident, knowing like even if the poop does hit the fan, like
Mhm.
how to navigate through it?
Yeah, definitely more confident from that standpoint. And I'm still learning and growing. Like I don't think I'm um like I don't feel like I've dialed that in or I'm a master at it by any means, because I think any human is always susceptible to that, no matter who you are. But I do feel like yeah, I've had those moments, had to go through it, and feel like I can handle it better now than I, could 6, 7 years ago for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
So
awesome. Yeah, because I don't know, Nate, do you ever do this? Do you ever get in a derb and you just go, what am I doing?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Especially when you're culling at 7 o'clock and now it's 1 o'clock and you haven't caught a bass since.
You forgot what it
Uh,
like, and
exactly. Yeah. Like you just, what am I doing?
yeah,
How is catching
yeah,
fish so easy early and now it's impossible?
yeah,
yeah, it's so humbling, and I don't think anybody is above it. Like I could go out and bomb the next 2 tournaments. I could have a really bad year next year. That's just the sport we play, and figuring out how to somehow manage it and control it about the only thing you can do. But it doesn't always work out.
that does not. Did you play baseball at all, like in school or anything, Bob?
Up until high school, and then I wanted to fish more in the summer, so I stopped playing. But I played football and hockey all through my senior year.
Yeah, hockey's a very Minnesota thing. I mean, it's Wisconsin.
Yeah,
I think it's more so Minnesota. But the only reason I ask about baseball is I remember in baseball, like in high school, we had a couple pitchers who would really be, they were having a heck of a game, and especially in the majors, if a guy's throwing a no hitter, let's say through like 5, like you don't talk to him about it. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't want to make him
yeah,
like you just leave him alone at the end of the bench. Let him do his. Don't be like, hey, no hitters, huh? Like you just leave him alone. Do you
yeah.
think that's true in fishing too? Like you try not to focus when you're doing real well. Look
A
at
little,
that work.
yeah, a little bit. Like I'm not super like superstitious when it comes to that. Yeah, I don't know. You just kind of try and roll with it and try and ride that wave as long as you can, because this sport is such a roller coaster. Like I know it's not going to last forever. Like I had a pretty brutal practice at the Pasco tank, and I kind of thought that was my bomb coming for the season, and somehow it just continued to work out. So
That's awesome.
I don't know how long it's going to last, but it's been a fun ride, so far, and we'll see how the year ends up.
We're rooting for you, man. Big time.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah, for
No
sure.
doubt.
You're one of our favorites, man. Not only because your boat looks awesome. We talked about that last time we had you on. Your boat wraps up so freaking clean, and like this is gonna sound not masculine, but your kit, like the way you're dressed, you always look sharp. Like you're out there killing.
Thanks, dude.
Let's keep it moving. So kind of based on what you talked about before, just right now with like how to adjust and how to be focused and make the right choices, we're going to play the hypothetical game. All right. I have one specific scenario for you. Nate has a specific scenario for you, and just give us what you would do. Try and put yourself here and how would you move from it? So mine goes like this.
Okay.
It's 6:15 a.m. in mid-May on a clear lake. The water temperature is 62 degrees. You throw a top water for like 20 minutes. You're getting follows, but no commitments. The fish are interested, but won't bite. The sun's really breaking over the horizon. What do you do to get a bite?
Like deep water, probably.
Let's say deep water. Yeah. Clear lake. First thing in the
Clear
morning.
lake. I know it kind of sounds like cliche of the times we're in, but I'd probably throw like a jig head minnow.
Okay.
I just feel like
That's
if it's clear like that and those fish are coming up and looking at top water, they're somewhat, feeding up, looking at at bait fish profile. And so I'd probably go to like a really light jig head, like a 1/16 or an 1/8 ounce, and probably a finesse or minnow first, and just see if you could trigger one that way. A jerk bait is a really good option too. If they're not committing to top water. Like last fall, I had this with smallmouth. Like I'd catch one or two on top water out of a school, and then they'd just totally get off of it. And so I picked up a deep jerk bait and a minnow, and I'd proceed to catch them on it. So that'd be my deal. Is like, okay, they're not eating a bait fish profile on top. Let's keep throwing a bait fish profile subsurface. And then if like that really isn't working, then maybe I'd start dragging something on bottom. And if it's clear finesse, I'm looking at like a little Ned rig, a drop shot, maybe a small Nico, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. Are you a clap tail guy?
Yeah, I've thrown on a decent amount. It's good smallie bait, like in that post spawn time period.
Yeah. I have a couple. I've never thrown it, but that's like the truth for the majority of my ridiculous amounts of tackle. So many things. This is dope. Oh, this is new. Oh, whatever. I love Rapala. Yeah, I'll never throw
Yeah,
it.
they're cool. It's a play on the Whopper Flopper, obviously, but they took some stuff from kind of the muskie world. There's a flap tail in the muskie world that's a really popular topwater bait that has the revolving tail and then it clips a blade every time. And so it's kind of similar to that, plus the Whopper Flopper. And so it's a little unique for the bass world, I guess, from that standpoint.
Yeah, right on. I was just curious. All right, Nate, hit him with your hypothetical, and then we're gonna ask him about some of his favorite fishing stuff.
All right. So my hypothetical is you're on a dirty, stained river in late August. Water temp is getting pretty high. Temperature outside is about 88 degrees, pushing 90. It's 2 p.m. You've been crushing them for the last hour or so on a bladed jig. And then all of a sudden it shuts off. You're not getting a bite. Nothing is going on at all. Water's dropping as the day goes on. They're pulling water on the river for whatever reason. What do you do to get that next bite? What do you do?
I'd probably first try a swim jig would be my first adjustment, just to see if maybe they want something a little bit more subtle. And if they're totally off the moving bait deal, like it kind of would depend on where I'm getting those bites on a bladed jig. If it's around wood cover, maybe flip a jig or something like that. If it's around grass, maybe it's more of a Texas rig, dragging on bottom. And it kind of like on Santee Cooper, I know this isn't August or Dirty River, but I was catching them on a bladed jig for the most part. But there are times when they got off of it and I had to switch to a swim jig. Like the wind would slick off and I'd switch to that swim jig and get a few more bites. And then actually I caught some on a frog, like in those areas, there were some mats nearby and they kind of like slid up under those mats instead of out in front of them with the wind. I caught some on a frog. So it's so situational, but if it's like because the wind died, then you might need to go a little bit more subtle or deeper into the cover. If it's maybe because it got super cold or whatever, there's a cold front that come through, you might need to slow down. It really can vary, but I'd say like go a little bit more subtle or deeper into the cover depending on the conditions.
I like that a lot.
This is my favorite game.
Yeah,
man.
I like that a lot.
This is like I love the mind of a professional who is 7th in Angler of the Year points right now, consistently cashing checks. Like hearing how he would adjust to stuff. I like musky fishing, but I say this all the time. Sometimes musky fishing will just make me feel so stupid because I'll cast all long and I won't get a follow. I won't raise one up and I won't get a bite. And I'm just going like, what am I doing wrong? So then I'll get the change these where I start going from this to that, to this, to over to that, to top water, to a bulldog. And with bass tournament, it does the same thing sometimes, like things change. And then instead of like just kind of thinking through, okay, well, yeah, bladed jig's got a lot more movement. Maybe the skirt's there. So go to a swim jig. or if they're deeper in the wood, flip a jig in there, whatever. Instead of just going crazy and try everything in your boat, like that target panic thing. Slow down through. So yeah, I love hearing you say this stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of times and maybe that goes back to the consistency thing, is just slowing down and being thorough. Like a lot of times those fish didn't leave. You just kind of need to figure out a different way to trigger them. Like in the Pasco tank, this last tournament, I actually found the fish with a flapping frog and a pig stick wacky rig. And I ended up not weighing a single fish on either of those two baits, and I weighed everything flipping. Because I tried those baits first thing in the morning, couldn't get bit. Kind of had a hunch there was a good population of fish in that area, and just slowed down and literally picked everything apart methodically. And it was just a matter of going slower than slow and picking them off that way. So
That's
sometimes awesome. Just a matter of being thorough.
Yeah. I like what you just said. A lot of times the fish are still there. They're just not fired up over what you were throwing. The question I had was sort of specific, because that's happened to me a couple times this year, where I was talking about getting follows on top water. On follows on top water, like to the daggone boat, where I'm seeing
really?
And then also like on live scope, where you're seeing, if anybody out there has never caught fish on live scope on top water, gosh dog it, that's so fun. Like watching
that is cool.
Watching that dot come up, but also, kick your nuts up into your throat. You talk about like just clenching up. They come up and they go, and they don't.
Yeah.
Like, what the? You'll watch a couple dots, just big, round, white, good. They fly up there and then slow down and go back down. You're like, wait, what? No. It's kind of like bow hunting. Like if you have a big buck in the woods and he and goes the other way, he didn't smell you, you didn't spook him, whatever, but there is literally nothing you can do, besides sort of like miraculous Jesus intervention. There's nothing you can do to make that thing turn around, and that hopeless feeling. So my question was sort of self-serving, but thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, Nate, you want to transition? You got any more follow-up questions before we ask him about some of his favorite fishing stuff?
No, I think we're ready to transition. I know what doesn't work is what I tried to do this weekend, and that was just get more rods on the deck. It doesn't work. Just at one point I told my partner, I said, here, I know what's going to make them bite. Let me get one more rod out, and that'll do it. Yeah, and it didn't.
Was it helicopter?
No.
You didn't throw the helicopter? Okay, all right.
That was a problem for sure.
You should have thrown that. Banjo minnow. What else is like some TV stuff? What's that Bill dance eel? You really missed out.
Yeah, the dancing eel.
The dance. Yeah, that was all right, Bob. So break us off. Whatever you want to say. What's one of your favorite ways to catch it? And let's kind of lean into it a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say if I can have a flipping stick in my hand, that's probably one of my favorite things to do. And we can go either punching grass or like flipping hardcover. I don't know if you want to break one of those two down in particular, but those two would probably be like when I won. Why don't we do flipping hardcover? Like when I won on Grand, that's what I was doing. I caught every fish flipping either a jig or a Texas rig on hardcover. And by that, I mean like wood, whether it's bushes or willow trees or dead laydown stumps. And I've got to do that a decent amount this year. I do think that's one other thing about this year is the schedule is kind of lined up in my favor a little bit. Gunnersville was early season grass fishing, no FFS, so I didn't have to worry about guys out in the abyss, and I could just kind of fish my style. But anyways, I was able to flip a lot on the Tom Bigby hardcover with a cleanup craw. I did it on Santee Cooper. I did it some on the Arkansas River, and then at the Pasco tank, all 15 of my fish I weighed flipping hardcover with the Texas rig.
Wow.
It's just something I love to do. I did a lot growing up on the Mississippi River, pools 4 and 5, and I just love having a flipping stick in my hand. I feel like I can outslow guys at times. Like if I am in the right area, I feel like I can like be slower than most guys would. Um, but it can burn you too if you're not in the right area. Like you can burn a lot of time and get behind the 8 ball doing that. But if I am keyed in on the right area, I feel like I can slow down more than most guys. And so I think that's a key attribute to it, is having that gut feeling of when to go slow and when to cover ground. Because you can flip hard cover and cover a lot of water, but you need to know when to slow down too. Because if you don't slow down, you're going to miss a lot of bites as well. But you've got to understand, like, how do I fish fast enough to cover ground to find those right areas with not skipping over it entirely and missing it by covering too much water at once, if that makes sense. Like you got to be efficient, but you also got to figure out how to like have that intuition to, okay, this is where I need to spend my time. Um, and I think that just comes with years and years of doing it, and you never fully dialed in. But yeah, flipping hard cover is like one of my favorite things to do. I guess, do you want me to break down rod, reel, line, like everything about it?
I would love that. Yeah, specific as you want to get. And the cleanup craw, has that been your? I mean, I know last time you were on about that, and you had a deck full of used up.
Yeah,
fill your juice.
yeah, that's pretty much like my go-to for the most part. I'll be honest, like I used to flip a beaver a lot, just a sweet beaver 420. And now working with Crush City, it's taken me a couple of years. Like I don't just switch over like overnight. It takes me some time to build confidence in a bait like that. But I would say at this point today, that cleanup craw is like my go-to flipping bait. It's kind of a little compact craw, and anytime we get to about the spawn and beyond, I like a bait with some kicking action to it like that. And so that's been my go-to 4-aught straight shank VMC flipping hook. I use a 1/4 ounce a lot. I know that's kind of a little bit light, but it kind of helps me slow down too.
Oh, that makes sense.
But I'd say 1/4 ounce or 3/8, and then I'll use a bobber stop. One little tip with that bobber stop, I see guys that want to put 2 bobber stops on there, or they'll really like shove that thing right down so your weight is like right on your hook and it's super compact. I actually slide that bobber stop up like a centimeter or two above the weight, and I just, confidence wise, I feel like when the fish get that bait, if my weight is a little bit loose on there, they have a better chance of getting the bait only. And maybe that weight is out of the mouth and doesn't blow their mouth open as much.
Mouth open. Yeah.
Super pegged up. And I'll do that even when I'm punching too. Like I'll just kind of like keep it a little bit above there. So I use a bobber stop. It's either usually 20-pound Suffix Advanced fluorocarbon and then a high speed gear ratio reel. And then the rod I've been using a lot in the last couple of years is a 7.3 heavy extra fast, either a Victory or a Legend Tournament Bass from St. Croix. I used to flip a 7-foot medium heavy fast a lot on like light wood cover, like not super heavy bushes. And I do that a little bit depending on where we're at. Like if we go to the Sabine River and the fish are a little bit smaller, I'll drop down to that 7-foot medium heavy. But
makes sense.
It's burned me a few times on the elites, like when you fish some heavy covered bushes and some nasty stuff. Like I've kind of been owned by some fish with that 7-foot medium heavy and fluorocarbon. So I've gone up to the 7.3 heavy, and then that extra fast tip allows me to really like flip and roll cast that bait really accurately. So that's kind of why I like that rod right now. Whether I'm fishing Texas rig or jig, and then like the actual art of doing it or the technique of doing it, it really varies. Like on the Tom Bigby, it was more an area thing and picking everything apart in that area.
Okay. Yeah.
And the Pasco tank was an area thing too, but it was full of cypress trees and it was really trying to decipher, okay, are they on the gum trees today, or are they on the cypress trees, or are they on the little laydowns that are like in between the cypress trees, or are they on these little stumps with thorns sticking out of them that are also kind of in the same area? It's and you have to fish all of it to figure that out, but usually there's a pattern of sorts there that you can key in on each day, and it's usually not random. So kind of figuring out the pattern within the pattern, yeah, you're flipping hardcover, but like what what's different about that bank and why are they sitting on that versus that? Like usually there's a pattern. Like when I won on Grand, the water was high, flooded bushes, willow trees, but the water had kind of dropped a little bit. And what I was keying on was like the dead willow trees in and amongst the chaos. Like there was buckbrush, there was living willow trees, there were laydowns, but there was like every so often there'd be like a dead willow tree laying over in the midst of all that stuff. That was like the key deal.
Okay.
Um, so you kind of got to pay attention to the little intricacies of that. And then condition wise, like, and the presence of forage and bait, like on the Pasco tank this couple weeks ago, there was one main creek that I was fishing, but there were probably 300-yard stretches that had the concentration of fish. And a lot of times it was because the bait was in that area. And then the reason it would fire is because wind was blowing on that bank. Like if you had no bait, slick calm, yeah, you might get a bite or two. But if you could key in on wind bank, and it wasn't a lot of wind, it was literally like a ripple.
Mm.
And then if you're seeing the presence of bait. So paying attention to, are you seeing activity in the area? Is there a little bit of wind to break up the surface? What sort of wood are they on compared to everything that's in the area? And then depth is really key too. You know, like, are they on the isolated stuff that's stuck way back on a shallow flat, or do they like the trees that have 3 to 4 foot of water butt up next to it versus everything else that has 2 foot of water on it? So you got to pay attention to all that little stuff when you go down a stretch of bank to kind of really pinpoint, okay, this is where I need to be and spend my time.
Dang. And are you figuring that out, the depth side of thing in practice, kind of letting the fish tell you, or what does that look like?
Yeah, you might get a key in practice. One thing that I really like to do, and I have gotten better at doing it, is just not fishing everything in practice in an area. Like at Santee Cooper this year, I was in a zone of the lake that is pretty big, and I kind of got some clues in practice, but then I like to leave a lot of stuff to be explored in good, bad, or otherwise. Sometimes that can be a complete waste of time and it doesn't work out. But sometimes, like, you don't really dial it in until tournament day, and then you can start looking for more of that when it matters,
Sure.
when the bite window is open during tournament hours. And so, yeah, you might catch one on a 4 foot cypress tree in practice, but you might also catch one on a 2 foot cypress tree in practice. And then in the tournament, you kind of got to figure it out that day and then maybe have some other stuff to explore along with it.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Regarding your flipping setup, what knot do you tie?
I tie what's called a shark knot. So if you go on YouTube and search Mark Zona shark knot, you'll be able to figure it out.
I saw that video.
Yeah, it's I used to tie the polymer,
Yep.
and I think 4 years ago I started having issues breaking off while flipping with fluorocarbon. I
Really?
still tie yeah, I don't, if you don't get it just perfect, you can pop that knot. And I had done it not a lot, but it was like 2 or 3 times, and that's just about enough for any of the guys on the elite level to try and figure out a different knot.
Right.
And I still tie it for any winding bait, jerk bait, chatterbait, cranking, spinner bait. I tie the polymer. I've never had issues breaking it with that stuff. But when I'm flipping short line applications of fluorocarbon, I tie that shark knot. It's very easy. You go through the eyelet once and then back through like you're going to tie the polymer. And then it's just like the old fisherman's knot where you twist your bait or wrap it around, 5, 6 times, then put the loop back through the bottom and then cinch it tight. And then you'll have 3 tag ends because you've doubled it back. You'll have your kind of your main tag end, and then the part that you put back through the loop's going to be a loop itself. So you cut it and you'll have tag ends there.
And you've had no problems with that one.
No, well, I did break off once at the Pasco tank, but I think I had rubbed up against some barnacles before I set the hook.
That's rough.
But that's the first time I broke it, like since I started tying it.
How often are you checking your line and stuff as a pro angler? As far as just
Insane amount.
I thought so.
Insane amount. I probably retied 15 to 20 times each day on the Pasco tank. I was respooling every night because I was going through so much line from having to retie. And that was a bit of an anomaly. But every fish catch, and if I'm hung up ever, I'm like very religious about retying.
Yeah, that makes sense. I hate retying. I don't hate it.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it too, but you have to do it.
I'm like, but sometimes I'll be in a derb or something. I'll be feeling my line, and I'm like, that one's not that bad. And then
not that bad.
The target panic deal. I'm like, dude, what are you saying? You're an idiot. You're gonna break off. It's gonna be like a 5 or something. Like, don't be just cut it. Take 2 seconds. Tie. Then I do use the Palomar knot or sometimes the double. Yeah, right on. That's funny.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say a couple things. One, I think since we had you on the last time, that cleanup crawl has probably easily been just a second. Has easily sorry, my daughter has easily become my favorite flipping bait. And I use it quite a bit on a swim jig trailer as well. But it's absolutely I don't you turned me on the last time you were on, and I've been flipping it like crazy. But I was gonna say in terms of like hard cover, I know obviously vegetation's a little bit different, but in terms of like hard cover, what do you normally how do you normally decide whether you want to throw a Texas rig or throw the jig? Like,
good question.
Do you let the fish choose, or is that, just a confidence deal, or what?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's kind of let the fish choose. Sometimes it's an efficiency thing too. Like last year on 10 Killer, when I made a top 10 flipping, a jig just seemed to come in and out of some of the gnarly cover I was flipping better, even though it was in June. Like a lot of people say, don't flip a jig, past spawn or something like that.
Right.
Fish a jig only in cold weather. Well, it was just more efficient for me, and I was getting bit on it, and so I just ran with it that week. I think I could have got bit on a cleanup craw that week as well, but I got bites on the jig, and I kind of just ran with it. And then like at the Pasco tank, I just got the first couple bites on a cleanup craw, and I just ran with that too. I don't know. It's like, listen to the fish, listen to what your confidence is telling you, and like in your gut, and kind of roll with that. I do think like in a little bit dingier, dirtier water, I do like that kick in action. Like even if I'm flipping a jig, I'll put a cleanup craw on the back as a trailer.
I was
Cleaner water.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
I'll keep going. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just what your jig trailer usually is, but
oh yeah, cleanup craw, or I'll put a chunk style on there too if it's a little bit colder.
Okay. Yeah. You ever throw the Bronco bug as a jig trailer?
I've started to a little bit.
I just
on like a bigger profile jig. Yeah. And I think for offshore it's a good, like, especially here in the Midwest.
Yep.
Grass lines and stuff like that.
Yeah. I found this last weekend when I was desperately throwing everything I could at any depth of water trying to find a fish, because the Chippewa flowage has been drained of fish apparently. Like it was so But I found a couple idling, found on side imaging, found a couple open spots within some deep weeds, so you got to press pause. And it was, I think, 17-ish feet or something. So I threw on a dirty jigs. I cannot remember the color, but it's kind of like lime, or I mean, like green pumpkin with like a lime green under. And then I don't know what the color code is. I apologize. But then there's a Bronco bug that's just like that, where it's green pumpkin on top and kind of a lime green chartreusey bottom. And they just so good together. And there's something about the way that on a 1/2 ounce jig, and I'm usually a 3/8 ounce jig for most like up shallower flipping, but that deeper water, something about the way that 1/2 ounce jig falls with that Bronco bug, how it kind of like follows it, like those round appendages, they sort of follow behind it. And that it was only small fish and a couple stupid pike, but I mean, right away started getting whacked on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a buddy that showed me that last fall when we were fishing together, and I've started to do it more myself. Yeah. It's a good big, if you want a big profile jig, it's a good trailer for that.
Yeah. Are you biting chunks of it off? I was biting about a 1/2 inch off.
Oh, were you? I haven't yet. Otherwise, it's pretty big. Yeah. Yeah.
Right on. Can I let me see if this will work. Let me show something real quick. Bada bada bing. Okay, so let's just say that the right side of this log that I just pulled up on the screen, let's say that on our so we're looking at to the right, that's shore, and the left side, kind of coming out towards the main body of the lake. How do you attack something like this? I've heard all kinds of different tactics, like start on the outside, then work your way in. I've heard start on the inside, work your way out, look in the water, see if there's grass on. So how would you attack this, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, like, it kind of depends on how I'm approaching it. Like if I'm going down the bank more toward the right side, like I have no issues with throwing to the thick trunk on the right side first and then working my way left.
Okay.
If I'm approaching it from the end, like generally, then I'll throw at the end of it and work my way back. The biggest thing that I think of is like, if there's multiple fish on that tree, how do I catch all of them? Like, how do I catch one of them without messing up the other one? So like, it kind of depends on how I'm approaching it, and the angle that I'm coming at it is how I would look at something like that. So if I'm coming at it as we're looking at it, I'll have no issues throwing at that right side with the trunk first and then working my way to the left.
Okay. Yeah. And then, I mean, you hook one, you're trying to get them out of there, get to the boat as quick as possible. Like you don't want to blow out anything else.
Yeah. If possible. Yeah. Like if you hang them up in there, you kind of got to go in after them and you can mess the whole thing up. But yeah, if you get them out, settle in, and I always make the same flip back to the same, like if I get bit on one tree, don't not throw at that again. Like put that fish in the live well or whatever, release it if you're not in a tournament, flip back in the same exact spot, because sometimes there's two of them sitting right next to each other in those areas.
Yeah, that's good advice. I find that can happen too when you're flipping like out in the middle of the lake, like grass. Like if you're you'll find one hole, and then you'll go to keep moving, and if you don't, you could fill out a limit with 5 fish in one hole on 5 casts. It's the weirdest thing. Like, where are you guys? You're just stacked up under there?
Yeah, and grass even more so than wood, I would say. Like they'll really school up in grass like that. And sometimes you'll find a school on a shallow piece of wood cover, but more often than not, that happens in submerged vegetation for sure.
Yeah, it's weird for sure. Well, Nate, you got anything else you want to run by Bob? I told him we'd keep him about an hour. I don't want to keep you up too late, man. You got anything else for this stud muffin before you let him go?
No, I think he killed it for us tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Bob, let me ask you this real quick. When's the last time you had a good taco?
Oh, it's actually trying to think.
Oh, no.
It's been a little while.
Oh, no, Bob, come on.
I'm trying to think. I think I made some, not at the last tournament, but at Santee. Pat and I, my buddy Pat Schlopper and I both made a top 10, and we went and had some Mexican after that tournament. So
Okay. Are you okay? So let me ask you this. I found we have a buddy, Nate and I do, named Mark. He has this. I thought it was weird, and then the more I've talked to folks, they're like, no, that's normal. He won't eat Mexican like during a derby because he's afraid he's gonna like poop his pants on the boat or something. You have a
Yeah.
with that too?
Well, I did. Yeah, I'd be pretty. We don't go until like after the tournament. Yeah, typically.
Okay, right on. He was like, I'm not bringing anything. You know what? I'll go celebrate with some tacos like after the tournament if it's a multi-day,
Yeah.
but not after the second day, whatever.
I'll eat them like if I prepare them, like if I know what went in them,
Yeah.
then I'm cool having them like tournament week. But if I'm going to a place and I don't really know,
Yeah, that makes sense.
risk.
That's really funny. Let me just ask you another quick question before I let you go, if that's okay, Bob. Are you trying to dip out, or can I ask you one more question?
No, you're good.
Okay, cool. I don't want, like I said, an hour. I don't want to be not a man of my word, but you brought up Pat, and it's funny, we haven't had Pat on the show, even though like we used to work together at Shields.
Okay.
A couple of years back, and he was going to come to our old podcast studio. It was in this town called Strum, Wisconsin, which was like 5 minutes from where he lived, and dude's a stud for sure. And I mean, it was last year, right? Yeah, that he won on the Sabine and the Mississippi, like dude's a stick. What is it about Midwest anglers that like you could maybe lump in? I know it's not exactly the same, but even like Canadian anglers like Cooper and the Johnstons, what's up with all these people who are not from the South doing well at bass fishing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think here in the Midwest and the North, we've always had good anglers, like forever, but they haven't necessarily been bass anglers. Like it's more walleye, multi-species, muskie. And so, and we have the numbers too, right? So you put those numbers up, you're going to have some really good anglers out of that crop. And now bass fishing is so popular here in the North. And I think the recruitment level at the high school ranks and then into college, like you're getting a lot more northern guys that are falling in love with bass fishing at a young age compared to any other time, I would argue, in our area. And
Yeah.
so naturally, I think you're getting more guys into it, and then therefore there's cream of the crop guys coming out of those like Jay Kurt's another one. His dad's a walleye pro, but Jay's an absolute stud on the Elite Series. So I think that's part of it. I think another part of it is that we just have really good fishing for bass in our area. And so you can dial in techniques relatively easy. Like if you want to go learn how to fish a drop shot and dial in your bait, hook, line, rod, reel, your hook set, like the actual hook set is an art too. Like
Yeah.
you can dial that in a couple days on a good lake, maybe a day on a good lake, and build a lot of confidence and technique. So I think it's good for that. And then, we have a couple smallmouth events each year that less and less are becoming an advantage for us, but historically kind of have been. And so we have the lakes to go practice on for those. So I would say those three things, like we've always had good anglers, but more and more of them are bass fishermen now. We've got a great training ground, and then the smallies play at times too.
Yeah, because I feel like back in the day, I'm sure you know this too, Nate. It felt like if you were a really good angler and you came up in the Midwest, you would kind of matriculate, sort of migrate down to the South. You'd move down to Alabama. And that's really a thing anymore. Like, is there any temptation in you to move away from Minnesota?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I just love it here's too much and have too many friends and family in the area that I'll never move. Like I shouldn't say that, but it would take a lot for us to move. The fishing just so good. Like it's not even reality in some of these lakes, like compared to what we see across the country. Like it's just so good around here that it's too fun in the summertime.
It really, yeah. And people, and it's weird, like kind of like the koiki, how like it took a couple of years for it to pop off. Cause the koiki really, and the urchin's been around a little bit, even before like the fuzzy.
Long time.
It's been, and people just looked at it and like laughed, and then people are like, "Oh wait, the Midwest has some great fishing, like some legitimately not good, like some great fishing." Yeah, Yeah, it's just interesting that we still kind of treat bass fishing like it's an Alabama old white rich man's game, and it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really not. I think it's the mold has been broken. Like KVD, you could argue was one of the pioneers of that, and it's continued now. And the more and more guys that come from the north, I think it inspires other guys too. I don't think it. We'll definitely see more guys coming from the Midwest and Canada for sure.
I think so. I think, and yeah, there's so many good ones. I mean, from Gussie to Seth to you to Pat Schlopper, like you said, Shakira and Nick Trim from Lacrosse. Like, there's so many guys who are just coming on up from areas that most people know they'd come on up from. But yeah, I think that's awesome. So, Bob, thank you so much, man, for jumping on, talking specifics. Thank you so much for the consistency conversation. That was just really encouraging.
Yeah.
Super good, man. And hopefully we can have you back on in a few months when you've won that AOI, brother.
That would be awesome. It's a little bit of a long shot, but we're going to give it our best, put our best foot forward and see what happens.
It's possible, but I think it could definitely come together for you. And the thing I was going to say too, like you said, the advantage isn't as there as it used to be for smallmouth derbs. And I think you're right. But I think where you guys, our Midwestern brethren can excel is when things don't go according to plan. Like y'all are by it, where some of these chicken tenders might be a little shook by it. Oh, that's not now. And you're like, oh, dude, that's nothing. That's normal. So plan B, plan C game for y'all, I think, is probably stronger. And that's not a diss on them, but the experience,
Sure. Yeah, I could see it coming into play at Champlain because we don't have FFS there. And, if I'm going to make up some ground, I think it might be at that one. And then St. Lawrence, stare at that screen and try and put 5 big ones in the boat.
Heck yeah, dude. Heck yeah. Well, good luck, man. Thank you for hopping on. We appreciate you, Bob.
Yep. Thanks. Appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Yep. See ya.
Peace.
Bob Downey.
Yes, sir.
The dude. What a stud.
Indeed. The dude, indeed. Yeah, no, that was awesome.
What a stud.
Yeah.
I just feel like when he comes from like a place of giving advice, like on the consistency talk or like the, flipping and stuff, it just comes from a very like honest place. It's not a condescension. It's not like cocky. It's not like I know everything. It's just like, here's experience kind of guiding what I know. You know what I mean? Like it felt really real and authentic and just super believable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, some knowledge bombs dropped there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, some stuff I'm gonna have to put in the old toolbox. My consistency game has been a little off here lately.
My consistency game's never been on, but yeah, I feel you for sure. I think one of the things that he said that stood out to me the most was when he said those fish might still be there. They just need like a different presentation. Because very often I'll get on a school or I'll get on a pattern, because I joke a lot. Like I love to joke when I'm on the water. I'll catch 1 6-incher on a Cinco or whatever. I'm like, oh, we're on a 6-inch Cinco pattern or what, like it's not really a pattern, whatever. But like if I am on a pattern and it's working and then they turn off, I usually just go to somewhere else. I move to a different spot on the lake. I don't usually slow down and go, okay, they might still be here. I just need to, sort of like, I really like throwing a big swim bait, like a big fish 30 acre or a KGB Chad or something. And if they don't bite it, but you see them, you go back in there with a weightless Nico and let it kind of shimmy on down, give them like a real easy something to eat. Sometimes I think with schools of fish, it's similar. Like even though they're not hitting this now and they were, make it simpler. Go to like a Great Lakes finesse, like Cindy rig or just something really, really like low effort to eat it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. That's man, yeah, definitely a way to look at it. And I don't even know. That's my mind just keeps like racing like back to like what I should have done or could have done or tried to change just yesterday. That one of the guys that was in that in that spot, they said after we left our area, another boat that was kind of down a ways rolled into where we were at and ended up catching 2 right after we left from that exact spot. 2 good ones too. So it's like, what did they do when they came in that we weren't doing? And yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, and it's such a weird. It's like Bob was saying. It's also like such a mental game, because you could junk fish and like claw your way to 5 maybe, or 5 better ones, or start culling, whatever. Or you could be like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just desperately throwing stuff. Well, are you just desperately, or are you sort of junk fishing and trying everything? I don't know. It's all kind of how you look at it. And like our little goofy phrase here at Tackle and Tacos, positivity is worth the effort. I think when you keep your mindset positive, kind of like what Bob was talking about, like sort of like that battle ready mindset, then it's easier to make the right decision. Whereas if you get all negative and target panic, and it's hard as heck to make the right decision, and it gets real easy to make the wrong decision. And then, bass fishing, winning tournaments is not the easiest thing in the world. And you get good at making bad decisions, and it's just not going to happen. Like, it's not going to together. But anyway, everybody, make sure you do follow Bob on the social medias. For Facebook, it's at Bob Downey Fishing. For YouTube, it's Bob space Downey space fishing. And then Instagram is different. It's at Bob Downey and then an underscore. And Downey is Downey, Bob Downey. Make sure you follow that sucker. Just a cool dude, great angler. I feel like he's just sort of not necessarily slept on, but he's that dude who kind of creeps up. He kind of creeps up in the nightclub and steals your girlfriend. Coming, and then he's just on you. But make sure to give us a follow as well if you would. Tackling Tacos is at Tackling Tacos on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. TacklingTacos.com is the website. You can cop the new dad hats, the new Richardson rope hats with the PVC patch glued on the front. There's green and black and yeller. Really dope hats. Do that, please. That would be amazing. Support us. T-shirts, stickers, all that stuff. TacklingTacos.com. Our sponsors. Honored to be brought to you by Grizzly Coolers. You can see this one over my shoulder. That's the big backpack cooler. Code WCB at checkout gets you 15% off. Loophole Optics, my favorite polarized sunnies I've ever worn. Nate wears them all the time. I'm trying to get raccoon eyes from like fishing so much, but it's not really happening. I'm getting more of like the flip-flop foot. DenaliFishing.com. Amazing rods, great reels. This is actually Nate's right here. You haven't even seen this, Nate. But this is Nate's little.
I haven't, no.
Back here in the background. And then Moldy's Marine. This feller is. I need to upload the video of it at some point. But I asked Jeremy Moldrum, Moldy's Marine. This is what you get if you go to moldysmarine.com. You come up with an idea, he makes your idea gooder and then makes it happen. So on my boat, I think I might be the first. Do you remember the old 3-6 Mafia song, Nate, Riding Spinners?
Yeah, we don't stop. We ride spinners.
They ride spinners. We ride spinners. They don't stop. Those spinner wheels back in the day were like the corniest, coolest thing in the world. So I asked Jeremy Moldrum of Moldy's Marine, my side mounted spare holder thing on my trailer, it's kind of wobbly. It's always kind of wobbly. I hate it. It's driving me crazy. Can you just weld it on there so it's a little more stable? He brings it back to me and goes, hey, I was extra. I'm like, what? He's like, if you can be anything in this world, be extra. I'm like, what did you do to my boat, dude? This is the guy who cut off his side console at 11 o'clock at night, the night before a derby, and then fiberglassed it all in. And by the time he picked me up for the derby the next day, you couldn't even tell he ever had a side, like a passenger console. He's a freak, and he's just not afraid to try stuff. So he ended up custom fabbing a spare mount on the side of my trailer, like was there. And then he mounted on a removable hub, like a spare hub, like the end of your axle hub, and then mounted the spare to that. So now not only do I have a hub, but now my spare spins all the time if I wanted to, which is so ghetto and so dope. I freaking love it. A guy at the ramp when I was launching in that derb the other day asked me if my spare was loose. And I'm like, nah, baby, loose, spinning. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, it's spinning. Like, go. And I told him, I said, go up to it and spin it. And he's like, what the heck? How does that work? I said, it's just mounted to a hub. And he's like, you mounted a hub on there? I'm like, well, there's a hub. And now if I break a hub, I have one that I can put on. So I'm ready to go. And he goes, well, that's goddamn smart. I'm like, yes, it is. Like, he had to like let it process, and then it hit him. So moldysmarine.com. These are the kind of things he can do for you. If you want a spinner as well, you can have one. And then also Northland Insurance Services, run by the Hammer of the North, Brian Beebe. Got to fish with him the other day. That was awesome. NorthlandInsuranceServices.com. Nate, you got anything else?
No, man. You killed it as always. Bob killed it. It was awesome. Jeremy Moldrum kills it. We all, all of our sponsors, we appreciate every single one of them. Yeah, I ain't got nothing good other than I got to figure out how to catch some fish, and Bob told us how to do it. So that's it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nate.
That's it. Positivity's worth the effort. Peace.
Peace.